welcome to Resilience Matters. I'm Alison Burgess, this is Kathy Lawson. And you know what I love about these sessions, it's brilliant having guests. And we've had some excellent guests in the last month, Elizabeth, Lola and Robin. It's great conversations. But there is always so many points that they make, so many things that we think about. And we're like, oh, we want to discuss this, we want to discuss that. And so we always make sure we have time to focus one of our sessions on some of the points we'd like to have dived in further with the guests that we have. So with a particular focus this month, we thought on what leaders and managers can do to support and help people build their resilience, because it's often something we're asked about when we meet clients. They're like, well, what can we do for our teams? So that is our focus. And actually that fits in very much with our focus for people power, which is next month, which we'll tell you a little bit more about at the end. That, you know, we want to help people to help their teams to build that resilience and mental strength, don't we, Kathy?
Oh yeah, totally. And I can't wait to go to the conference.
Yeah, brilliant. We are excited not just to present, but also to meet so many other people. So I'm going to take us back. We'll do a bit of time travel now here. And if we start by thinking about some of the things that Elizabeth was saying, and she was talking about that whole idea about, you know, being authentic, being ourselves, and also about being part of a tribe and how that can help us when it comes to being resilient. And I think, you know, that links to certainly two of our habits in particular around valuing and caring for yourself, around being open and generous to others. Now, I don't know, what did you think about that, Kathy?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I like the fact that Elizabeth talked about, actually, can you be truly happy if you're not being yourself? And then maybe starting about culture in some of the places I've worked, and particularly in the corporate world. I remember when I started my career in finance, you know, everybody thought the same, they were all the same. And actually, do we want to create clones, or do we want to, it's the whole thing about diversity, you know, being comfortable with what we are. So I think there's a fine balance there, isn't there? Because, you know, the whole, you know, we talk about diversity, we have insights, we have Myers-Briggs, and it's all about the fact we're all different, but that's what makes a great team.
Yeah.
You need a detailed person, you need someone who's creative, you know, so at what point are you not being your true self if you're trying to be like somebody else?
I agree. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. It's not something that we might automatically be able to do. I think maybe particularly when we're starting in our careers. I mean, I know this is going back an awful long time, but I remember in one of my first jobs that, you know, literally it's like, well, you have to wear a blue suit. You have to look this way, you know, there was a time when Disney had no beards, you know, there are all sorts of things going on where you had to be a certain way. And, you know, from a psychological perspective, it's called a persona, these masks that we wear. And, you know, if you wear a mask all the time, that's going to cause an awful lot of stress. But actually, the flip side is sometimes we put those masks on to protect ourselves and to reduce our stress levels. So if you know, you start in a job and you think, well, do I go in being me, or, you know, do I play it safe a little bit? And there is a balance, I think.
Totally. And I think I've mentioned this once before, you know, the because I'm, you know, I'm an advocate of diversity. I love the whole point that the people I love are quite often the characters, and, you know, I love people like that, and that diversity of thought has better decisions, you know. So I, you know, I'm a real advocate for that sort of stuff. But I can remember when we were building a competency framework in the company I worked for, we done some work with IBM, and they had a competency called a wild duck competency, and that was recognising that actually some of those, you know, people will think differently, but they'll give another dimension to the business. And so there was actually competency about being a wild duck, and it kind of being I felt that kind of gave you a little bit of permission, without going obviously maybe too far out, that going, oh sorry, it's just my wild duck coming out, but, you know, they kind of gave you a little bit of permission to go, you know, we want to get the best from you, you know, and for you to be yourself. So I think as a leader, you know, some of that is kind of creating that space to kind of what are them boundaries and letting people be themselves and work into their strengths in that sort of way and embrace their differences.
And I think it's interesting you bring in that leadership style, because of course it's like, how many leaders are wild ducks? Yeah. Or how many leaders are actually thinking, no, I've got to be a certain way. You know, I got to this position by being a set way, by doing things that my mentors did. And so, you know, how many leaders are being that role model that shows other people, you know, this is me, I'm happy being me, I am authentically me, and this is what I'm looking for from you in a team.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it's explaining that as well, saying, oh, you know, and welcome those different perspectives and those different types of people. You know, like I was talking earlier, you know, I can remember being in a meeting where there was clearly a very blue person and detailed versus somebody else who was very creative, and trying to get them to meet in the middle is sometimes difficult. But actually explaining that, you know, actually we've all got a role to play here, and we know that you're going to keep us honest on the detail, and we know you're going to come up with some really great thinking, but together we've got it. You know, that's setting the tone, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And as you say, when we think about, you know, that diversity of thought, that diversity of being, it can bring so much to the table if we embrace it, you know, but actually that means the leaders and the managers have got to create that space to allow people to do that, and they've got to role model that for the people around them.
Yeah, and it just made me think it's actually the inclusion part of diversity inclusion, isn't it?
Yes.
It's actually that inclusive environment.
Yeah, there's a reason why it evolved from equality, then equality and diversity, then equality, diversity, inclusion, because it's that has always been the most challenging part in businesses. They can stick a policy in place, they can understand what diversity means, but to actually make things incredibly inclusive, that is much more of a challenge.
Yeah, and you think of that role model, and we talked about that the other week in one of our courses, where somebody said, you know, my boss might say, oh, we don't expect you to work late, but they're in the office all night. You know, what does that signal does that play to the team? So although you're saying those words, there is a lot of that role modelling that people take on board. They would take your lead, won't they?
Oh, completely. Yes. And that's a really important point, I think, that you just made there, Kathy, about, just, you know, you need to be the one who goes home and who says, I'm going home to my children, or I'm going home because I've got this on, you know, to show that you are that rounded individual, that balance, it gets that work-life balance, and that enjoys different aspects of their life rather than is just somebody who lives for work.
Yeah, totally.
And I guess
that leads. Go on. I was saying that kind of leads into also what Lola was saying about her burnout, wasn't it?
That's exactly where I was going to go. Oh my God, it's like we work together. Yeah. And I think that is that thing about, you know, the flip side is when you have the kind of toxic environment that Lola was in, where, you know, her body was screaming at her every day with all the symptoms she had, saying, you are not well, you are stressed, you have taken too much on. You know, her doctor had to sit her down and tell her that, but nobody picked that up at work. You know, how come nobody picked that up at work? We wanted to ask her that, but, you know, that almost felt too personal. But how do you not pick that up when you see somebody in the kind of situation Lola was in?
Yeah, and it is noticing as well, isn't it, that change of behaviours? I think we're all so busy as well in our own lives that I saw something on LinkedIn actually this week, and it was something like in construction there's more suicide than there is deaths from health and safety reasons, or something like that, you know. And it was but again, it was about noticing change of behaviours, noticing small things. And I think as well, particularly around workload, it's doing those exercises, stop, start and continue. And I think with the enormous amount of change, you know, and we've done it to some degree as well, Alison, you know, we're not perfect. We'll go, oh, we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we never actually look and go, well, actually, what are we going to stop doing to allow us to do, you know, what are we going to take out of that funnel? And I think from a leadership point of view, it's keeping an eye on that as well, because we're always going to be busy, aren't we?
We are. I mean, having done many time management programs in the past, it is the one thing you can't do is you can't give people any more time. So it's about being clever with your time. It's about, focusing on value of the work that people do. It's not about, say I come from an environment, I used to work in the city of London, and, in the times when people used to have the 2 jackets, because they'd have they'd leave one jacket on them when they went home because they didn't want to look like they'd left their desk. And it's actually, that's not what we're about anymore, or shouldn't be what we're about. It should be about, okay, this is my role. This is what is the most valuable thing for me to do today. That's where I'll focus my time, because it's motivating for the individual, know they're doing the thing of the highest value, but it's also, it means that, that individual is focusing on what the business needs from them without that pressure. But as you say, if you don't do the stop, start, continue, if you don't look at what you're doing, you just end up getting in a repetitive cycle the entire time, don't you?
Certainly. And it made me wonder, when you were talking about, the jacket there, has things changed? We just do it virtually now? Because I think I saw something, I might have been on LinkedIn again, where, somebody had invented something that moves your mouse so that it always shows green. Isn't that like the modern day hybrid world equivalent of the jacket on the back of the chair? And then it comes back to environment again. As a leader, really getting to know your team and your drivers. And I think there's a few things there. If you've got that relationship, you can go, do you know what, I am going to do the school run at 3. You'll notice I'll go red for, or yellow, amber, inactive for half an hour. And that's, getting to know your team. Don't do conference calls at 9 because I'm not going to be back from the school run till 15:15, because that just adds another stress level to my mornings and trying to get the kids out. But actually, not just in regards to noticing behavioural changes from a burnout point of view or where they're at, but actually from a motivation point of view. If you don't know your team, how can you motivate them? How can you support them on the bits that things that are stressing them out might actually be really simple things.
Yeah.
Like, we have a conference call at 9. It could be some real, triggers there that are easily fixed if you get to know them. So I think part of that, we still talk about the environment again, that really getting to know the team, noticing, as well.
Yeah, I think it takes me back into my motivation theory teaching, and one of my favorite models, and I can't remember his name now, but when he talked about motivation, he said, part of the whole thing is like, it's about the individual, that, motivation doesn't work for everybody. You need to understand that particular person. And it had a valency in it. So I'm sure somebody watching this will know which theory I'm talking about. And it was like, will that way of motivating work for that specific person? Because if you don't know that specific person and the difference it will make, then you're just like throwing it into the wind and keeping your fingers crossed. And I remember delivering that one day in a team, and we had exactly that conversation. Somebody said, I worked out that for one person in my team, they just needed to be able to leave early on a Friday. That made all the difference to them, just getting that hour. But for somebody else, they just wanted a little bit of flexibility in the morning, because they had to do drop off and the pressure of 9 o'clock was too much. So they were just given like the flexibility of 9:15. But just those two differences for different people, understanding the needs they had. One person liked to go away for weekends, the other person had a school run to deal with. And so you tackle it in different ways, understanding what matters to them.
Totally. And I believe you get that back again. I've done some work recently for somebody, and my son was in hospital, and I had a lot of things going on, and she said, will you just go? Will you just phone the hospital now? It's absolutely fine. And you know what? I still logged on the evening, caught up, even though I know there was no judgment going on, and I think you do play it back. I think, probably twofold, because somebody's giving you something, you feel like, you want to give it back and some. So I think it back. It really does.
I am going to pick you up there. We were talking about hybrid working, and this just resonates with me. I think there is one thing that managers can do as well around that hybrid working is to just be really careful that people have space in their days. I was working with somebody last week, and I saw them at the end of the day, and they said literally they had 9 till 5 meetings, not a single gap in it. And like, if I was working with that person and I'd seen that they didn't have a single gap in the day, I'd start to worry. I was like, if it's a one-off, possibly that's okay, although I'd want a half hour somewhere. Nothing is that important that you can't put half an hour in the day to find some space. You can't move something to another day, or say to somebody, I cannot fit you in today. Can I offer you some time tomorrow? Nothing can be that important. And when people do that, and it's so easy to do it, particularly when we're in that virtual world, you go, right, I've got an 11 to 11:30, and then I've got an 11:30 to 12:30, and we just literally switch one off, and then we switch the other one on, and we don't give ourselves that space. So managers need to keep an eye on that people are having those breaks, having that space, and when little Frank's here, I have no choice. I have to take those breaks, I have to take him for those walks, but I can find myself victim to that if I'm not careful. So I think that's another thing. Hybrid working means that we can sometimes hide some of the non-caring habits we have for ourselves, and managers need to be aware of that and just check in and make sure people are putting that space and that time in.
I noticed there's a lot of people putting 45-minute calls now. We don't do a 1 hour calls because it forces you, unless you're going to start a call at 1:45 or something, which people don't tend to do. You do get 15 minutes back.
I like that.
Yeah, never do. There's a few people that, never hour calls, only 45 minutes.
That is an excellent tip, because if you can do it in an hour, you can do it in 45 minutes, probably in most things. What a brilliant tip.
Focused. Yeah, just makes you a little bit more focused. And I think as well, just about going back within the hybrid world, building on your point, something you said at the beginning about, the importance of collaboration and team, work as well. That comes into that, because I think, some of that has suffered in the hybrid world. I mean, we've got involved in projects, haven't we, where work-life balance or that hybrid work connection has been really difficult, and it's thinking about as well, not just them 15-minute breaks, but where the team can have some human connection, where they're not just talking about work. Because again, we need people, we're trying, and that will lead to burnout as well. If you are not just, if you don't have breaks, but just not having connection. If you live at home, if you live on your own, and all you're doing is plowing through calls, going, done that, doing my actions, that's kind of no life, is there? And you need people around you in hard times as well.
Absolutely. And there's hard times, but also in the good times, because hopefully as we move forward, so businesses are bouncing back, and there'll be plenty of opportunities out there. But we just need to make that time, just like to stop. If any manager or leader listening to this has got somebody in their team that they have not just taken time to get to know, and put it down to working virtually or whatever else, just put that time in the diary, even if it's a virtual cup of tea, ideally a face-to-face one, but just some time to have those conversations and get to know people.
Yeah, totally.
And moving on, thinking about Robin, and Robin again gave us the gift of so many different ideas and things to think about. But one of the things, and it challenges me to an extent, I'm going to be absolutely honest on this one, because I like to think we should be able to do everything. Robin talked about focusing on people's strengths. As a manager, as a leader, that's the thing to do, that to not think about weaknesses in any way, and to just focus on cultivating the strengths that people have in their teams. So what do you think of that?
Oh, John, I remember having this same thought working in the corporate world. We were looking at something, and we're looking about where we develop, and we're saying, do we take the bottom people and get them to here? Do we take this segment and take them to here? Do we make the good people brilliant? And actually, we've all done the talent models where you want those people in the top right. They're our future leaders. My view is everyone's talent. I really believe that. And I think there's a piece we talked about earlier about value and diversity. If we're looking at talent, is this persona, as you called it? Do you know what I mean? If that persona is talent, then are we looking in the right place? We're looking for people like us. So I think we are all talent. I think mindset can hold us back, very much, and I think that's what I realized when I worked in talent leadership, that everyone is talent. And if you look at what separates people, it might be they've got more confidence to go and step out there, they knock back, they try something else, they, all of that mindset stuff. It wasn't necessarily about, and we're all good at different things, and that's what I love about the world. That's what makes life colourful, is that we are all good at different things. So I think playing to them strengths, if you think what we talked about earlier, you've got a blue person wanting the detail, and then the ideas, yellow person over here. Actually, why would you try and make that creative person do a spreadsheet? Go into the detail. Why would you, ask the numbers person? And this is a huge, generalization, obviously. I love numbers too. I love a spreadsheet. That doesn't make me not creative. But I think, playing to them strengths, and there's a piece around as well, what gives you enjoyment. I would put that as well, because, as I say, because originally starting as an accountant, as soon as people find out you're an accountant, they're like, oh, right, Kathy would do it. And it's like, hello. So it never mattered what job I got. I still seem to get all the numbers stuff. But actually, I didn't get as much joy from it. So there is a piece about what you're good at and what you like. And again, getting to know your team again, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. Both of us started in accountancy and economics, that side of it. And I hit that point, I think, when I was in my late 20s. And the thing that resonated with me was, to be successful, you have to find something you're good at, but that you enjoy. And that, I knew I was good at what I did, but could I see myself doing it for the next 30, 40 years? I was like, oh my goodness, no. Find that way to change. And so, I suppose actually, if we focus on people's strengths, if we focus on helping people be even better at things, we're helping them to be more successful, because they're focusing on what they're good at. And hopefully they enjoy it. Because if we go back to one of my favorite motivators, Daniel Pink, when he talks about mastery being such a prime motivator for people, if people can see how well they're doing, and just getting that sense of joy of, look, I've learned even more about something that I thought I was an expert on anyway. That's great for them, great for the team as well, because the team has all these wonderful experts at different things in there, and great for the business.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's got to be win-win, isn't it? And I think, assessing what that talent is, or what your strengths are. I know every organisation is different, but I think it's a decision everybody makes. Do we still develop every skill so it's a mid-set? I think it depends on the role they do as well. But I think with a great team, having a good all-rounder, that's what makes you brilliant. And again, being a leader, what makes a great leader isn't knowing everything. It's surrounding yourself by people who do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Look at Richard Branson. Yeah. Richard Branson, you remember reading his autobiography, and he's going, I'm right brain. This is what I can do. I surrounded myself with the people who can do all the things I need to do to run a business, enabling him to stay in that creative way. And I appreciate in like smaller teams in businesses, there may not always be an opportunity to be that expert and to play to your strengths. But if there's part of that opportunity alongside everything else, then you get that motivation, and then you get that feeling of, I'm bringing myself to this team. I'm not just being a person in a role, I'm being me in this role. But that, again, it comes down to the leaders and the managers, and how they do that, and how they encourage people, how they give feedback, which is that could be a whole other session in itself. So all these things are incredibly important, and the role of the manager and the leader just is absolutely vital.
Absolutely. And I think people probably don't appreciate that sometimes when they do step up a little bit more. They don't have to know everything. It is creating that right environment. And actually, growing your talent and people around you, not be threatened that they're after your job, but wanting to grow them and them to move up, and having that abundance mindset rather than feeling threatened. Again, you've got to feel confident in yourself. It comes back to mindset again, not necessarily capability. So
yeah. So if we're going to pull all this together, what do you think is the main learning for us to take away for ourselves, but also to share with others?
For me, I think it's about noticing. I think it's about getting to know your team. What we talked about earlier, noticing changes in behavior, understanding what motivates them, noticing how your team are working. Are they, again, looking like they're in competition with each other? Are they even talking to each other? Are they working together well? Do you need to create a project so just to get them working together? Just notice your own thoughts, that self-awareness that, Robin actually picked up on with these emotional intelligence stuff as well. That self-awareness of yourself, but particularly just your team and understanding them, I think would be my theme across all three. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, it seems like such a little thing to notice, but do we do that? Do we actually take that time? It's almost like being a mindful leader, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because mindfulness is all about being in the here and now, not letting your head be, oh, I've got this meeting and I've got this report to do and I've got these targets. It's about being mindful right here, right now. This is my team. This is what's going on. This is how I see them. These are the feelings. Just taking time, going to that old road safety thing of like to stop, look, and listen.
I like that. Stop, look, and listen. That's great insight. And I can't believe the time is nearly up.
It is. I think, as always, we could go into another one, but then we'll go over the 30 minutes and we like to keep them under for people who've just got that time for their lunch. So, so we'll be back next week with, we've got George next week.
George next week, which is all about, and actually I think people will enjoy that because it's around mindset, particularly when you're in the job market, and she helps particularly school leavers. So if anybody here has children as well, it doesn't just help you find jobs and mindset and how that can help and change, but also for young people and how they remain resilient in their job search and increase their chances of success. So can't wait to speak to her.
I'm sure she'll have some pearls of wisdom on that one.
I know, she's great. She's really good. So, and on that, if any of our network, we obviously do these weekly. If anybody on network wants to be part of this conversation and Resilience Matters, would love to hear from you because, again, talk about diversity. We like all different industries, types of people. I always think everybody has something to offer. So please do get in touch with us. I'll put up our website now, i'vegottthis.co.uk. So please do get in touch, and we'd love to have you on this series. And also on our website, we do have a self-diagnostic tool against our 6 habits. We have 101 ways to improve your resilience. Mental strength, I should say, which I think is really useful. So by all means, go down and onto the website and download it. So that'd be great. And I think one more thing just to close off, as Alison mentioned at the beginning of the call, we are speakers at this year's People Power Conference. It's in Newcastle on the 23rd of June. So have a look at the website, peoplepowerevents.co.uk. They've got some great speakers. It's really directed at a lot of leaders and managers, and it's talking about things like people strategy, hybrid working, well-being, engagement, talent management, and of course that's around resilience. So it'd be great if anybody can attend. We'd love to see you there.
Yes,
brilliant. But until then, lovely catching up, Alison.
Brilliant as always, and we'll see everybody next week.
The great thing would be having this conversation earlier anyway, but it's not recorded. So there you go. Share it with the world. Share it with the world. All right, take care. Have a good rest of the day, everybody.
Bye.